Hello and welcome to screencast number 5 for chapter 21. This is the new renewable energy alternatives, and in this section we are going to talk about wind power. We're going to look at the turbines and how they convert kinetic energy into electric energy. We'll be discussing that wind power is also growing very quickly in its use. We'll be thinking of hopefully getting to the part where we talk about offshore sites actually putting turbines in the ocean, because having the turbines over water, the winds tend to be stronger and less turbulent than they would be on land. So those are some of the things that we'll be covering in this cast. Okay, so wind power is just harnessing energy from wind. We do this by using wind turbines, windmills, they used to be called in earlier times. And these are just mechanical assemblies that are able to convert the wind's kinetic energy, or just that energy of motion, into electrical energy. So, of course, you know that the roots of the turbines did come from the wooden windmills that had been used for over 800 years, and they were used in the capacity to grind grain and to pump water. The first wind turbine that was built to generate electricity was actually constructed in the 1880s in Cleveland, Ohio. And then it wasn't until the 1970s, 1973 oil embargo to be exact, that the governments and industry in North America and Europe began funding research for the development of wind power. Modern wind turbines, and I should say before we get into that, so they did find and fund to help boost the technologies so that this progress in wind, the wind alternative energy, would move faster. Okay, so when we look at modern wind turbines, the wind turns the blades of the rotor, and this rotor machinery rotates inside a compartment that is called the nacelle. And this nacelle, and we'll see a picture of this, sits atop of a tower, and inside the nacelle is a gearbox or a generator, and it has equipment in it that can control the turbine activity. On average, our towers, and when I say our, the world's towers, are about 260 feet high. The largest are taller than a football field is long, and what we have found out is that higher is generally better because it minimizes the turbulence, and turbulence would provide potential damage, so we want to minimize that. We can also maximize the wind speed when we're at higher up. The turbines are often erected in groups, and we call these groups wind farms. And today the world's largest wind farms contain about 100 turbines that are spread across the landscape. When the engineers design the turbines, they design them to yaw. And what is meant by yaw is to be able to rotate back and forth in response to the changes of wind direction. So sometimes they might be in the direction of northerly winds, and other times they might be in the directions of southerly winds, or somewhere in between. So that's yaw. Some turbines are designed to generate low levels of electricity by turning with light breezes. Oh, here we go. So let's take a look at this picture. So here's the nacelle that you can see, and then we have the blades, and this consists of the tower, and inside we do have a gearbox, And this gearbox, just by making some changes, allows us to increase the rotational speed of the blades, or put a little bit more of a restriction on it. I guess that's a good way to say it, so that it's not going too fast or not going too slow. And then this is the generator where it produces electricity. So the and as I started to say, some turbines are designed to generate low levels of electricity by turning at low breezes, and then others are programmed to rotate only in strong winds. And that's where you can adjust that the tension on that, generating large amounts of electricity in a short period of time. The slight differences in wind speed yield substantial differences in power output, and we see this for two reasons. The first reason is that the energy content of the wind increases as the square of its velocity. So a little bit of math here. So what that means is the wind velocity doubles. And if the wind velocity doubles, that means that the energy quadruples. The second reason is in the increase in wind speeds, that causes more air molecules to pass through the wind turbine per unit time, making the power output equal to the wind velocity cubed. So what does that mean? This is a doubled wind velocity that results in an 8-fold increase of power output. So we actually get more energy than the turbines are collecting with the wind, or catching with the wind. Okay? So wind power is growing fast, but right now, currently, it only provides a small portion of the world's power needs. We're seeing that the production is doubling every 3 years. There are 5 nations that account for 3/4 of the wind power output. Guess who ranks at the top? I bet you won't guess this one. You got it, Germany. Germany has long produced the most. The United States in 2008 overtook Germany's production, and then China surpassed the United States 2 years later. Denmark right now is leading the world in obtaining the greatest percentage of energy from its wind power. Wind farms actually supply nearly 30% of the Danish electricity needs. Germany is 5th in this respect. United States falls 13th. Texas generates the most wind power of all the United States. Iowa and South Dakota are close behind, obtaining nearly 25% of their electricity from wind. The wind power's growth in the United States has been haphazard, and we've heard this before. It's really been kind of fluctuating for all of the green energy sources that we've talked about. Congress is not committed to any long-term federal tax credit for wind development. It has passed a series of short-term renewals, so because of that, it leaves the industry uncertain. They don't know how they're going to go and how much to invest. We're certain, though, that wind power's growth is going to continue in the U.S. Because only a small portion of the resource is currently being tapped into, and because wind power is very favorable and it generates electricity and prices very low compared to fossil fuels. So experts have outlined how the United States could meet fully 1/5 of its electrical demands with wind power by the year 2030. So taking a look at this graph, This is showing you the global production of wind power, and it has been doubling every 3 years, as we said. So our blue line represents that production, and it's going up, and the prices have fallen slightly. There was a dip in the fall of prices. It went up again, and then technology improved and it came back down again. So when we take a look at this graphic, we're seeing that the percentage of global wind power in each nation. And currently we see that the rest of the world is at 26.4%. China leads with 26.7%, then the United States, Germany, Spain, and India. And then the bottom graph shows the leading nations in proportion of electricity from wind power. And Denmark, which falls in the rest of the world, is the country that is leading. Portugal and Spain are second, and we see the United States second to the last. So, considering where's the best place to get wind energy, one of the places that they're looking at are offshore sites, because here wind speeds on average are 20% greater over water than they are on land, and the air is less turbulent over the water. So what's happening is this is making offshore wind turbines more popular. The cost to erect and maintain turbines over water is a little bit higher, but because of the stronger, less turbulent winds, you're getting more energy and making that offshore wind potentially more profitable. The wind farms currently are limited to shallow water. The towers are sunk into sediments, and they're using kind of like a tripod configuration to hold them in. And in the future, they are looking to place turbines in deeper water, and they would put these kind of like on floating rafts that are pads that are anchored to the sea floor. Denmark actually erected the first offshore wind farm in 1991. Germany did raise its feed-in tariff rate for offshore wind from 9 cents to 15 cents per kilowatt hour, and that happened in 2009. So many projects began for construction today, and several are operating. By 2013, we saw over 18,000 wind turbines that are operating in 65 wind farms in waters of the 10 European countries. In the United States, currently has no offshore wind farms, but development of the first was approved in 2010. It took a 9-year debate in order to get this going. So the Cape Wind offshore wind farm, if it's constructed, will feature about 130 turbines. It'll be located 5 miles off of Cape Cod, Massachusetts. The U.S. Interior Secretary Ken Salazar predicted that it would be the first of many projects that would happen up and down the Atlantic coast. Indeed, and as of 2013, there are 8 offshore wind developments that are in the planning stages off of the northeast coast, and there is even one off of the Texas coast and Lake Erie. Okay, so this is what the water farms would look like, or offshore farms. All right, we're going to end here. We're 14 minutes in, and we will continue in the next screencast. See you on the other side.